All right, everybody, welcome. This is a big Thursday show. We're going to try to mush everything together all into one episode. Welcome to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm Dan Besbris, your host, and you can find me on social at Dan Besbris, DanBesbris. Please take a second as you're settling in. You guys know the drill at this point. Hit that like button if you're watching. However you're taking in the content, please subscribe so you can see everything that we got coming out here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. And if you have a moment on iTunes or Spotify to leave a 5-star review, that would be extraordinarily helpful. We are looking at a big Wednesday card. We're recapping the 11-gamer. We'll also take a look ahead to Thursday. And I'm realizing as I started the show that I have to adjust one thing. So there may be a weird edit that you guys can all catch if you're paying close attention. I don't know why I said that. In any event, let's just dive straight on in. Here's the Wednesday card. We had a lot of injury replacement data yesterday. And, we had the board. By the way, this is why you need to watch the preview shows that we do. Because we're giving out all this stuff, these guys that you can use that are injury fill-ins, and they're just more popping up every day. But let's get into this thing because it's going to be a pretty long one. Boston lost at Indiana in overtime. The Celtics have a rare blip, only shot 40% for the game. A lot of guys to blame. Derek White, not one of them. Might 8 out of 9 shooting in this game. Seems like perhaps, just throwing it out there, perhaps he should have shot more. Jrue Holiday got a little bit outplayed by Peyton Pritchard in this ballgame. I don't like that, but I also don't think it's going to be a thing that happens every day. Pritchard was kind of a 3-point lava-hot laser kind of stream leading up to that, but then got this 38-minute performance in this ballgame. And again, something to keep an eye on. I know that oftentimes I'm a little slow on pickups of guys that don't look like they have a secure role. And I think overall, this is a team that's still going to go to Jrue Holiday more often than they're going to Peyton Pritchard. But let's keep an eye on it. I'm not adding Pritchard, if only because I think the minutes are going to bounce around a lot. And then with Horford, got off to a quick start and then just kind of disappeared. They went other ways. They played some small ball. You had, 15, 16 minutes out of Luke Cornett. It was a kind of a hot hand sort of thing, although not that any one of those guys was part of what you'd call a winning unit for the Celtics, other than Nemias Queta. It'll be Al Horford most of the time. And frankly, even in a horrible ball game here, Horford still managed to get your kind of typical 9-cat Horford sort of stuff. But anyway, Celtics I don't want to spend a lot of time on because not much changes. The Pritchard-Jrue Holiday thing is something I think we'll want to monitor a little bit. Tyrese Haliburton slowly coming around, 17 points, 12 assists, a couple steals, and a couple of threes. He's still shooting terribly, and he said it himself that he's like, look, I can't make a shot right now. He's shooting 34.5% from the field, 67% at the free throw line. You guys know that's not going to hold, so you're fine. No Miles Turner for this one. Isaiah Jackson, I say again, Isaiah Jackson is a terrific fill-in streamer whenever Miles Turner is out. I'm so emphatic about this that I want to put his face on the screen for those that are watching. If you can go get Isaiah Jackson, specifically in leagues where your moves are not capped, because we don't know exactly how long Miles Turner is going to be out. It didn't seem like it was that big of a deal. But anytime Jackson starts, he's a guy you got to play. I know the 25 minutes weren't enough. He fouled out. It happens to him because he's kind of on roller skates, but he gets points when he's in there. 10 points in 25 minutes ain't bad, and if he managed to not foul out, it would have been better. The rebounds, I think, could have been a better showing here, and typically they would be, but he gets a lot of steals, a lot of blocks, good field goal percent, and then he made his free throws here, although typically you just kind of hope he doesn't go to the foul line. But Jackson is your first very clear injury replacement guy that we're talking about on today's show. And if we find out before the next ball game that Turner's still out, then you do it again. Flipping screens. That's what I'm trying to do on today's show. See if I can pull it off without totally doinking it. Toronto unable to overcome the Charlotte Hornets, who put up a $138. Raptors 133 points wasn't enough. Jakob Poeltl 20 and 16, 2 steals and good field goal percent. He was a guy that I sort of quietly was into on draft night. He's up to number 68 in 9-cat while somehow shooting 76% at the free throw line. I don't think that's going to hold, but otherwise things are good on the Poeltl front. I'm trying to remember where we had him in the various buckets. Yeah, he was. I had him pretty high, actually. So that's good. At least I practiced what I preached on that one. Gradey Dick, with no Scotty Barnes for 3 weeks. He's out with an orbital fracture. Is going to have plenty of opportunity because Emmanuel Quickley's still out. When Quickley comes back, I probably move on from Gradey Dick. I know that he stays in the starting lineup. It quickly takes Davion Mitchell's spot, who, by the way, had 11 assists in this ball game, but I'm still not really sold on the Davion Mitchell thing. But Gradey Dick taking 17 shots. A lot of them are going to be three-pointers. He managed to have a good field goal percent in this one, had some steals, no rebounds, no assists. So there's those glaring holes in Grady's fantasy game. But right now there's enough usage to overwhelm that. Same story for RJ Barrett, who has a ton of fantasy holes. But right now his usage is going to be so high with Barnes and Quickley out that you play him too. So this Jonathan Mogbo character, who I'm betting I just butchered his last name, and I meant to look it up on YouTube before I started the podcast, and then I forgot. And here I am. I had a Gradey Dick Yahoo tab ready to share, and then I forgot to throw it up there. So he's a go. In terms of injury streams, though, Mogbo, so we've seen good things from the steals and the blocks to this point. Only 25 minutes here. Ochai Agbaji got 29 off the bench, and those two guys ended up kind of fighting it out a little bit. And then Boucher got 17 sort of high usage minutes. Jamal Sheed had 9 assists off the bench. I don't know if there's enough for Mogbo on a day-to-day basis, especially here if they're going to put up a $133, and he still was only like kind of an okay fantasy line. The steals and the blocks were basically what saved it. So I'm going to take more of a wait-and-see approach because Barnes is out for 3 weeks. We'll kind of see how this thing develops, and yeah, we'll take it from there. So wait and see. On the Charlotte side, you just continue to roll with Trey Mann. He's been very good since Brandon Miller went down. I know Cody Martin had 25. That's a pass. Grant Williams had 17. That's a pass for me. These guys were very, very hot shooting. Keep an eye on Josh Green. If his minutes start to trend up into the 30s, that would be something to, you don't have to get out in front of it or anything, but it's something to think about. And then, look, I'll admit it. I'm too late on Nick Richards because I watched him all of last year. And last year, I mean, he's at 2.5 blocks per game right now in 30 minutes a night. The rebounds are believable. He was at 8 rebounds last year in 26 minutes. You add another basically 15% to that. That would have put him in the 9s. I don't know that 12 is going to hold up. His rebounding is especially high right now. And I definitely don't think 2.5 blocks is going to hold. This is someone that in starters minutes profiled as more like 1.2, 1.3. But he's running hot right now. He's offensive rebounding like a maniac. He had 7 O boards last night. He has a total of 19 offensive rebounds in 4 ball games. He's up around 5 a game almost. So you can see very clearly the things that are probably not going to stick in terms of, like, is this going to be a long-term thing? Plus, at some point, Mark Williams is going to resurface. But for now, fine. He's better than just a rebounds field goal percent stream. I will give you that. He's on a heater, and you can ride hot hands. I don't really care that, like, it seems like I'm too late on this one because we know what he's going to be. We know that Mark Williams is going to play at some point. We don't know when exactly, but yeah. I'm okay with being too late on this one. Congratulations if you got out in front of the Nick Richards injury replacement stream. I don't know. I watched it for 60 games last year, and this type of stuff happened once in a blue moon. Yeah, my allergies are the pits these days. Atlanta, they are so hurt right now, and they couldn't even beat the Wizards. Poor Hawks. They're down Dyson Daniels. They're down Bogdan Bogdanovic. They're down DeAndre Hunter. And so now they're sort of forced into playing Zachary Reese-Shea 35 minutes. And if he's going to get 35 minutes and 15 shots, you can put him in your fantasy lineups. That's, I think, relatively straightforward. Jalen Johnson is going to get all the usage he can handle. He's not shooting the ball well so far, but 21 points, 17 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. Things are going to be pretty good. David Roddy slid into the starting 5. His fantasy game is not that good. 17 points. He did have a couple of steals, but I don't think I'm going to play Roddy. And then Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu split the center minutes, and neither one of them did much of anything. Capella's not that far off from a drop. If his minutes kind of trending the wrong way. You can hang on a little bit longer if you must, but he was an avoid guy. Okongwu, after a huge first game, he's come back to earth, but you're going to hang on there because we've seen flashes of the upside, and it's kind of the only direction to go. Meanwhile, over in Washington Wizards land, Bilal Coulibaly, who we've been talking about so much on this podcast. Well, the breakout hath occurred. 27 points, 9 rebounds, 3 steals, a block, 3 3-pointers, 79% from the field in this ball game. He's pushed himself up to top 40 with this one on 19, 6, and 3. Yeah, the 59% shooting is not going to hold. That's a crazy high number for Coulibaly so far. What's he shooting? 42% from downtown. Who knows? Maybe that could stick, but like the 2-point percentage right now is truly extraordinary. And this is really more of a celebration moment because we saw those first few games. You saw him coming on. You saw the offensive aggression starting to pick up. Kyle Kuzma's out, so that opened up a few more shots, and he took them. And it was a glorious thing. Jordan Poole was off to a slow start in this game. He managed to get things wrapped back up together with another 3-steal performance. Alex Sarr is putting up numbers in only 23 minutes. As this season goes, his fantasy stock is going to take off. Make sure you're getting Alex Sarr now if you can. Kaishan George got the start for Kyle Kuzma, and I don't really care. Bub Carrington got the point guard start in this game. He had 16, 6, and 6. Let's keep an eye on that. I don't think you need to add. Corey Kispert got 14 shots. That's also largely due to Kuzma being out. I don't think you need to add there either. The Valanciunas thing is interesting. 22 points, 8 boards, even 6 assists. More than anything, it's just about a few extra minutes and a few extra shots. And I think you can put a lot of that on Kuzma. Him being out just opens up the offense for a bunch of guys. Not in a way that like Kuzma makes them worse or anything. It's just that when you throw 15 or more shots back into the shot pool, guys like JV who need touches to have fantasy relevance, they now have them. So the Kuzma injury probably buys us. I shouldn't say us. I have no Valanciunas on my team this year. He was going too early. Kuzma's injury buys Valanciunas managers in fantasy a little time to squat on him. But look, we're celebrating Bilal right now. Hopefully you added earlier this week or late last week when we talked about it, because it'll be too late by the time you listen to this show. Detroit beat the injured Philadelphia 76ers, although the news of the morning is that Joel Embiid is sort of ramping himself up now. He's participating in 5-on-5. That means he's very close. So Philly's about to go from being very bad to much better. Jalen Duren fouled out in 11 minutes of this game without Joel Embiid on the other side. That was kind of an unfortunate twist, but it did open up a ton of rebounds. So Isaiah Stewart played 34 minutes. He got 7 and 11 with 3 blocks. Tobias Harris, 14 rebounds. Way to get yourself involved, Toby. He also led the team in field goal attempts with 18. We are starting to see Tobias settling in a little bit. This is a good thing. Enjoy it. You knew the bad shooting is not going to hold all season long. Slowly but surely, he's getting himself in the mix. And right now, the field goal percent is the thing holding him back. Everything else for Tobias profiles in that same 50 range, but he's shooting horribly. And so the threes, the points, the field goal percent are all big negatives right now when they likely won't be in a week or two. No, you're not picking up Isaiah Stewart. This is a foul trouble replacement situation. Jaden Ivey had good percentages again. I'll maintain the same take I have on him for the last week. Ivey belongs on head-to-head rosters. I still think he's kind of a scary guy to try to play in Roto because things could go south quick. On the season, he's at 47 shooting, 75 free throw. And obviously the counting stats have been good enough, but that puts him at top 100 overall because of the percentages and because of how that impacts a Roto team. Drummond was not as good, but you'll stream him. Kelly Oubre was not as good, but you're going to stream him too. And that's as far as you're going with the hapless 76ers right now. Lakers just got owned by a Cavaliers team that honestly right now looks like the best team in the NBA, even over the Celtics, who sometimes fall into that pattern of just jacking up threes. Cleveland is not jacking up anything. They are stifling teams on defense and just pounding them into the pavement on offense. And they did it in this one despite foul trouble for both Darius Garland and Evan Mobley. Both of those guys had foul issues in the first half in particular. Mobley picked up a couple more in the second half, but the game wasn't super competitive, so neither one of those guys had to play late. So it became the Jarrett Allen show, just dunking on all of the Lakers repeatedly. He's a first-rounder right now, guys. Jarrett Allen is a first-rounder after a week and change. 5 games into the season, he's averaging 18 and 11 with 2.6 defensive stats and 79% shooting. Yeah, he's enjoying being wide open so far. Cleveland looks really good. I know it's nice that Mobley still had 25 and 5, even though he only got up to 19 minutes. It's tough to rack up defensive stats against Anthony Davis and LeBron, so you'll forgive him his foibles in this ballgame. But Cleveland, 58% shooting, only 12 turnovers, just absolutely destroyed the Lakers. Not much you're doing with it from a fantasy standpoint. Lakers, it's the usual 4. Reeves was due for a down game. He got locked down by Cleveland. AD and LeBron kind of survived this one. D'Lo can't shoot right now. So, it's the prototypical buy low situation. I know D'Lo is probably not going to do quite as much as long as Austin Reeves is cooking as much as he is lately, but he's also not going to shoot 36.5% all season long. So, that's the buy low. If you find the guys that have a weirdly low field goal percent, there you go. And then Rui Hachimura also got shut down by the Cavs. It'll be fine. Lakers' lives are going to get simpler. They have a really hard schedule, actually, to start the year. I don't know if you guys remember us talking about that on the podcast because I get sidetracked by Lakers crap every once in a while. Their next game will be easier. They're in Toronto tomorrow. They're in Detroit on Monday, in Memphis on Wednesday of next week. I guess this was sort of like the end of the really hard stretch of the schedule. Now the Lakers' schedule gets a little more cushy. 1, 2. They got Philly. I'm betting Embiid is back by that game. They might be taking on a good Philly team by Friday of next week. But then they got Toronto again after that at home. Memphis at home. Grizzlies don't look very good right now. Spurs are figuring things out. Pelicans after that. They're all beat up. So life, I think, should be pretty good for Lakers offensively. Because even if they play the Sixers, I don't think Philly's defense is going to be that great by the time they see it. So this is, I think, a good time to try to get in on Lakers if you're considering it. Karl-Anthony Towns, just a nice, cool, run-of-the-mill 44 and 13 game. And guess who's also a first-rounder? Cat. He's number 7. I don't think he's going to shoot 59% for the year and 95% at the free throw line. But the other stuff is around what we figured. 22.5 points, 11 rebounds, 2 3-pointers. The defensive stats haven't really come around yet, and so those will hopefully come up a little when the efficiency dips down a tad. But this is why we had Cat in the second round, and I think that's where he probably slips to. So those of you guys that were coming after me after Cat had 1 or 2 not great games, he's a first rounder now. So chill the hell out. Jalen Brunson, this is why I faded Brunson. He's points, he's assists, but he doesn't have to do as much as last year. This is sort of the archetype of what the Knicks want. But now, obviously, they'd like to have a little more depth than they have right now. But this is what they want to do. Anywho, Tyler Hero, big ball game. He's been surprisingly good so far this year. I did not think we were going to get 17 shots out of Hero, and we have to this point. He's also hitting 4 3-pointers a game, so I'll admit I may have been a bit low on Hero in just the way that I had more trust in Terry Rozier. I perhaps should have had trust in both of them. And oddly, those two guys are doing maybe too much. And then Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo aren't doing nearly enough. Butler at least has been able to kind of salvage things so far by being efficient. Wow, he's missing his free throws. I didn't even realize that. So Jimmy's been fine. Bam's been horrible. And you guys know I'm lower on Bam than most because that 50 range per game with him kind of sticks out. Not that I faded him this year. That would be an inaccurate statement. But, like, a lot of people were going Bam right alongside Mobley and the Jalen's. I had him behind those guys. I had him more in, like, the Desmond Bane, DeJounte Murray grouping. But none of us thought he was going to start out this poorly, which means, by the way, it's a pretty obvious buy low. Bam's not going to average whatever the hell he's at right now, 11 and 7 on 40% shooting from the field and 67 free throw. If you can go get him for a 50, 60 range guy, I don't know. 50 is probably where he ends up. I think I would go 60 range if you can try to get Bam. Orlando did not think they were going to lose this game. Jalen Suggs was awesome again, though. That's kind of all I care about because I have a bunch of Jalen Suggses, and he's number 16 in 9-cat so far. By the way, the steal rate probably doesn't quite stick at what it is right now. But a lot of the stuff for Suggs could, believe it or not, be better than what he's at so far. Because remember, they had a few games early where he was in foul trouble, and then they were blowing him out without him on the court. Now he's had 3 games in a row where he's been a first-rounder. Holy macaroni. Franz Wagner left early with a flu bug. He'll be okay. People keep telling me I got to pay closer attention to Anthony Black. And I get it. Steal 3 blocks, 6 assists. That's interesting. But the minutes are not there consistently yet. Wendell Carter Jr., eventually he's just going to settle back to being kind of what he's always been, which is a kind of a late-round plodding center. Probably, 90 to 125 range would be a good end point. And then Paolo, who's posting a crap ton of points so far, 29 points, 9 rebounds, 5.5 assists. And the field goal percent actually hasn't been all that bad. The free throw right now is the big bugaboo with him. I'm assuming that'll come up a little bit. Super high volume, 64% is not good. But I also think the field goal percent probably comes down. And again, this is the fear. If you drafted Paolo, this is why I said you probably need to be punting multiple categories. As it turns out, so far this season, you really only needed to be punting free throw, and he's been really, really good. A Paolo Giannis team is off to a really nice start. Although Giannis isn't getting the defensive stats he normally does, but now you got your 2 worst free throw shooters in the NBA paired up. I don't know. I think the free throw gets better with Paolo. I think the turnovers get worse. I think the field goal percent gets worse. Scoring probably comes down a bit from 29. It's hard to stick all the way up in that area for an entire season, but we'll see. Pretty gutty little win here for the Chicago Bulls, who are without Lonzo Ball for a couple of weeks. Zach LaVine, doing his best Shohei Ohtani impersonation this morning, said that it was a subluxation of his shoulder, and he's actually just hoping to play in their next ball game. So I guess that's good news for the Bulls. We'll see if he's actually at near full strength. If LaVine has to miss any time, I would think about Ayo Dosunmu, who got some extra minutes in this one, mostly because Lonzo was out. Dosunmu is an extraordinarily efficient guard. I don't want us to overlook the fact that if he starts to get more consistent playing time, he belongs on fantasy rosters because he can get there really quickly. And I don't want you guys to look at his averages from this year. I'd rather you guys look at what he did late last season, not the full season, late last year when he was seeing starters minutes, and the lines were terrific. High field goal percent, high free throw, rebounds, assists, steals, A block or two here and there, but you're not really counting on that. Ayo was great down the stretch last year. He was great. I don't know if there's going to be enough usage for him, even if the minutes do get up into that 30 range. We saw it yesterday, like 8 shots in 29 minutes. That's probably not enough, but he typically makes them. So it's easy for him to rise in fantasy ranks because every shot he takes is a positive for his overall number. Again, I don't think we need to get in front of this one because nobody's looking at 12, 4, and 4 and thinking I got to go get Ayo Dosunmu. But we like to try to stay in front of stuff when we can. And this is one of those, like, let's keep an eye on it because Lonzo's out for a couple of weeks as a badly sprained wrist. Dosunmu probably, frankly, makes sense as a head-to-head type of replacement guy. I don't know that I'd use him against a games cap. Chicago plays, when the hell do they go next? Tomorrow in Brooklyn, then they're off for a couple of days. So unfortunately, we're not going to get a lot of data on it in the extremely near term, which, oh well. And then otherwise, everything, Josh Giddey finally had kind of his breakout game. Vooch continues to be fine. Same with Kobe White. Patrick Williams remains kind of in that zone, so we'll leave it alone. What on earth has gotten into Dennis Schröder this year? Dennis Schröder has decided that he is going to collect every damn shot on earth, and he's going to take it. Although in this one, it only took him 14 shots to get there because he was incredibly efficient. 33-8 for Schröder. Where is he now? Is he a second rounder? Yeah, he's number 17 on the year to this point. Okay, guys, let's take a step back. It's been fun. I only have him on some teams where I was punting field goal percent, which, by the way, hasn't mattered because he's shooting 55% from the field so far. You want to point at the number and go, yeah, anyway, that one's going to stick. That's the one. He's also jacking up three-pointers at a crazy rate, which he's never really done in the past, and now making them also at an over 50% clip. These are things that are not going to stick. I would point you all to the last time Dennis Schröder averaged around 14 or 15 points per game. He was inside the top 100 that year. So it's looking like Schröder is going to be a fantasy win, but not to this level. So if you can get a top 50 guy for Schröder, I would definitely do it. If you can get a top 60 guy for Schröder, I might just let this heater run, but I'd probably do that too. What I'm not taking back is 75. I think that's more like kind of the floor range for this amount of usage iteration of Dennis. But if you can get top 50, you do it. Cam Johnson was quietly fine. Ben Simmons played and was quietly meh. Dorian Finney-Smith filled in for Nick Claxton, and he was head-to-head level only. And Cam Thomas finally had his first kind of slow-down game, which I think dropped Cam down to number 34. Oh, well. The free throws coming down is going to be the thing that moves him down the board because the usage is going to stay really high, but 8 foul shots a game is probably not going to stick. And I know he took another 11 in this one, but that's the thing you're pointing at and going, I don't think this dude's going to be the best free throw volume guy in the NBA this year when he starts to run out of gas a little bit. The Grizzlies and the Pelicans, who are not back-to-back on this sheet, but I lump them together because they are an injury dumpster fire between those two clubs. Desmond Bane left early, hurt his oblique. That's usually a thing that's not a one-game absence, so nuts. Marcus Smart turned an ankle, and apparently it wasn't that great. Left after 6 minutes. That's the worst thing that could possibly happen to a roto team because you blew a games cap on a 1-rebound, 1-assist night. But what we didn't really get to see, because this game, to some degree, not all the way, but kind of got out of hand at stretches, is we didn't really see who the hell's going to pick up the pieces for a Grizzlies team that is missing Ja Morant on and off so far this year. JJJ is still kind of ramping up to game shape after missing the preseason. And they're starting to look, unfortunately, a lot like the Grizzlies from last year. Now, I know a lot of this stuff is more short-term. They'll be okay. Bane will be back in a week or two. And Smart will be back in whatever the timeline is on this one. And Ja Morant will start to play in every game instead of some of the games. And JJJ is going to start to play in every game instead of some of the games. And life will improve. But then if you're looking at it and you're pointing and you're going, all right, I'm trying to see through the forest here. If Bane is out I'm, by the way, going to assume that he is, for all intents and purposes. The guy you should be looking at is probably Santi Aldama, because they're going to need somebody to go out there and take some shots. Somebody's got to score. It could be Jake LaRavia, but I'd lean towards Aldama. But I don't know that either of those guys need to be added. The one that you want, or the one that you're hoping gets to pick up some extra playing time, would be Scotty Pippen Jr., and that's the one that probably kicks in if Marcus Smart has to miss a game or two. So Pippen's the guy. He's already on a lot of rosters because he had a big game when Ja Morant sat one out, and then he was putting up crazy per-minute numbers to start the year, even with Ja in there. We knew those weren't going to hold. Now there may be another opening for Pippen to go and do some stuff. I know everybody wants me to give you an answer on what to do with Zach Edey, and the answer is if you drafted him, you probably have to wait this thing out, although it might not get better. You guys trying to talk me into picking up Jay Huff. Get out of here with this. These guys playing 16 minutes do not need to be on fantasy teams. Not since Nerlens Noel will I pick up a player playing 16 minutes a game. I guess Jonathan Isaac would have been the other one. By the way, Jonathan Isaac sweeping very quickly back up to... Oh, you know what? I forgot to go back to sharing the box scores. I'm sorry, guys. That was idiotic. Who the hell were we looking at that whole time? Were we looking at the Ayo Dosunmu box score? At least that was only a game or two back. I forgot to talk about Jonathan Isaac. Where was that Orlando game? There it is. Isaac played 14 minutes in his return from a hip injury. I'm hoping desperately that number goes up. 14 minutes, he still put up a pretty good fantasy line in 14 minutes, but we need to get him to 20. That's the Jonathan Isaac barrier, and so we'll monitor that plenty. San Antonio lost at Oklahoma City. I think a lot of teams are. Maybe you can make an argument that OKC is also, like the Cavaliers, looking like one of the best teams in the NBA. Chris Paul finally took a few shots, or maybe finally made a few. 14 and 9, 3 threes, a steal, and a block. It's a nice game for Chris Paul. It's why you're not dropping him, because 7 assist guys don't grow on trees. Harrison Barnes woke back up. Don't care. Jeremy Sohan, 17 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. He continues to be right on that borderline of a guy I would play in head-to-head and probably not in Roto. I've explained it a few times, but basically it has to do with the fact that in Roto, I just don't want to drop a guy into a lineup that I think could have a terrible shooting game. A lot of guys have them, but when I point, I'm like, that could be bad. That's the ones I tend to want to avoid. And then I said it on a short that's going to be dropping on our various channels here at some point, at Dan Vespers, at Old Man Squad, at Old Man Squad Fantasy over on Instagram, actually, and also on YouTube. Victor Wembanyama is a buy low right now. He was terrible. He's sitting in 5th round valuation at the moment. You might, I say might, I don't think it's probable, but you might be able to get Wemby. You might be able to get Wemby for someone else you drafted in the 1st round later on. They're going to have to be playing their tails off for there to even be a shot. But like Jason Tatum, would I go Anthony Davis? I don't know if I'd go Anthony Davis. That's a health versus not health kind of trust deal. Trae Young, you could throw out there. You could throw Chet plus something out there, because Chet's been what everybody wanted Wemby to be so far. Could you go Chet plus like, I don't know. Bane just got hurt, or he would have been the guy I would have thrown him in with. How about Chet plus Mikal Bridges? Would that get it done? Maybe not. See what you can do. There's a weird little pathway right now. Jalen Williams looked a little more like himself in this one. 12, 7, and 8, 4 steals and a block. I like that. I like it quite a lot. When the shooting comes around, it's going to be a dunk fest. Alex Caruso, only 22 minutes again. He got 4 steals, but nothing else. 22 minutes ain't enough. I need him up to 26. It doesn't look like it's happening. I will hold on a tiny bit longer, but that's all I can give you. New Orleans lost them both in Golden State, and they just keep losing players. The starting lineup for the Pelicans in this game featured 2 of the guys that they expected to start in their starting 5 to begin the year. No Trey Murphy, no DeJounte Murray, now no Herb Jones as well, and no CJ McCollum. They're down 4 of their top 6 usage guys. Zion's probably the number 1 usage dude, so he still exists, I guess. And then Brandon Ingram is the other lingering uninjured one somehow. But we got all this stuff to sort out. And the problem, of course, here with New Orleans is that each player you might be looking at picking up is linked to one of the guys that's out. They play again tomorrow. They're hosting Indiana at home tomorrow. If we find out that McCollum is out, Jose Alvarado is an all-systems go dude. If we find out that McCollum is in, then I think maybe you just go Jordan Hawkins as your injury replacement stream. But again, if all of those guys are out, you go Hawkins. He took 21 shots. I know he didn't do a ton with it, but you'll take it. And Alvarado could be a lot of fun. And if you're on the roto side, where a lot of times the moves are for a day in advance, why not get out in front of this one? So Hawkins so far this year is averaging 16-5. He had 23-4 in yesterday's game. The efficiency wasn't really there, which, again, I mean, the Warriors played good defense. But in my eyes, you have to play Jordan Hawkins if these guys are out. There's just so many shots sitting there available for dudes to take. And, Zion tried to take a lot of them, but Draymond Green, frankly, made kind of easy work of Zion, who's sitting outside the top 200 right now. This comes down to the same thing, man. These guys where you're punting something when you're getting into it. It's just a harder way to play fantasy basketball. I maintain head-to-head roto, it doesn't matter. If you are relying on someone who is going to be really bad in one category, it makes your life harder. It's like the complicated path. Anyway, head-to-head players, if your roster moves are for day of, which I'm hoping that most non-Yahoo prize head-to-head leagues are, then you wait on the injury report before doing anything with this one. Meanwhile, Warriors have their own injury report, but it hasn't mattered against the hapless Pelicans because Draymond Green finally woke up. 14, 4, and 6 with a steal and 5 blocks. This is why you just wait and wait and wait, and at some point, Draymond's going to be a little bit more like Dre again. And with that game, he's back inside the top 100. Phew. Buddy Hield is your guy with Steph out. I know he's not starting, but he's the guy taking all the Steph shots that are available. Brandon Podziemski started for Steph, but in my opinion, he got better because Andrew Wiggins was out. Because they needed the rebounding. They needed someone to size up a little bit out there. That's not stuff that Buddy Hield can do. And then Trayce Jackson-Davis looked a little better in this one. 15-9 with a block. But again, the 20 minutes is the part that worries me. We needed 25 for Trayce Jackson-Davis, and he isn't really getting there consistently. So Warriors recap, you're holding Draymond Green, you're streaming Buddy Hield with Steph out, you're streaming Podziemski with Wiggins out. That's for all formats, I should say, head-to-head or roto. Trayce Jackson-Davis, he's a very low-end center. I don't think he's a must-roster. And then Jonathan Kuminga, you're not going to drop him because he has the ability to score, but he's been atrocious. And I know, Josh Lloyd and I talked about this before. We hated his fantasy game going into the year together, and we took a lot of heat for it because everybody was like, oh, it's big breakout Kuminga time. It's like, no, saw the breakout, and it was like a 3-week heater he went on in January of last year. And then he settled back outside the top 100 after that. And that's looks to be what he's on his way to now. And finally, the Blazers with a road win at the Intuit Dome. Denny Avdia doubled. And every show I do with a coin flip on Denny, I think he's probably worth using while Shaedon Sharpe is out. That's where I'm going to sit until something convinces me definitively in either direction. Jeremy Grant slowed down to no one's surprise after his crazy hot start. Scoot has been kind of meh. You're holding if you drafted him because you did it with a particular team build in mind. Anthony Simons is not someone I really wanted. Tumani Kamara is the one we've been sort of half watching to see if he could be more than just a schedule play, and he's probably not. For the Clippers, we have yet to see an efficient iteration of James Harden. I still am hoping that one pops up, but the good news is that he's averaging 24 and 11 with 7.5 rebounds and 2.5 threes with 1.3 steals. The bad news is that he's at a high volume 35% from the field and 6 turnovers per game. That stuff's going to come down at some point. Even at his worst, Harden wasn't that bad at shooting and turnovers. And so is it a buy low? Probably not, because whoever drafted him is like, yeah, I kind of assumed that the field goal percent and turnovers were going to be trash. And if you're not worried about those, well, his other stuff has been quite impressive, actually. A double punt in field goal and turnovers puts James Harden at number 6 in all of fantasy basketball. So, yeah. Norman Powell's been great. Obviously, you're going to continue to use him at least until Kawhi comes back. We'll see what happens at that point. Zubac's offense finally slowed down, still had 12 boards, still played 31 minutes. That's the important part here. And then Derek Jones is very much a filler. We were talking about filler level players on yesterday's show. Remember that? Derek Jones is a filler level player, right around top 100 while shooting the ball pretty well. Okay, then. That is the recap portion of the proceedings. Now we switch over to the look ahead because we're going to mush them all into one program today. It's a relatively quiet one. So I figured we could push them into the same spot because typically the recap takes a while regardless of how long the card was. The look ahead is a lot quicker. This, of course, is Thursday. 4 games. Dive into them a little bit now. Couple of teams to watch closely, mostly because of injury stuff. And again, a mid-show reminder to hit that like button, subscribe however you're taking this in, rate it on iTunes and Spotify. And if you want to follow on Twitter, I strongly, strongly suggest you do at Dan Besbris over on social media, DanBesbris, Old Man Squad. We've also got a free Discord link and a free Google Sheet where I store all of my stuff, schedule streaming things, Yahoo's rank board. We're going to be tracking rank, stuff of that nature. You can go back and see my buckets from the preseason. I'm never going to move any of that stuff around. Maximum transparency. No weird stuff going on behind the scenes over here. Team by team, let's take a look at what's going on tonight. The Milwaukee Bucks. Nothing big right now. I'm just sort of kind of semi-half tracking Bobby Portis on a game-to-game basis. And eventually Chris Middleton will come back, and that'll give us some more stuff to keep tabs on with Milwaukee. The Grizzlies are one of the really important ones playing tonight because they have likely about half their team out. Probably Desmond Bane. I don't think we've gotten word on it yet, but again, those oblique things, they don't recover overnight. I think Kuzma is the only player that was a maybe that's already been ruled out, and that's for tomorrow. Oh, that's for Saturday. Sheesh. So we don't have updates on the Grizzlies yet. I'm sure that'll be coming out in the not-too-distant future, and we'll probably find out that Bane is out. We'll probably find out that Marcus Smart is out. I don't know what the deal is with Ja right now. So keep watch on the Grizzlies news because we might have an opportunity to stream a guy like a Scotty Pippen Jr. That would certainly be the favorite one to drop in there. You might get like a Santi Aldama opportunity. Don't stretch it too far, though. It'll depend very heavily on which higher usage guys are out on that Memphis side. The Rockets. Deep sigh. The bench guys are not getting sufficient minutes. Tari Eason is putting up value in his limited play, but we need someone in that bench unit to get more like 24, 25 instead of all of them getting 20. That's where we're at right now. It's a screw job. The Mavs. Is Clay coming back to earth? My guess is probably yes. We've seen him after that very hot start, which was somewhat predictable. New digs, opportunity to be like, I still got something in the tank. Well, the tank is starting to dry a little bit now on Clay. He fell from first round to 5th round over the last 2 games. And I think he's probably due for a bounce back after a really bad one. But you're going to see Clay slowly taper off into that 75 to 125 zone at some point here. And the question really is exactly how. Is PJ on the rise? You guys know I'm weirdly enthusiastic about PJ Washington this year. I don't know why. Something about the assorted stats he puts up. I wish the percentages were better. You'd think they would be with Kyrie and Luka getting him wide open. And maybe they will be a little bit better. In any event, your San Antonio Spurs, I don't know why I say your, I just do. It sounds right. Is Wemby a buy low? Yes. Where will Jeremy Sohan end up? And did we start to see more of CP3 last night? Is he starting to settle in a little bit, understanding when he's got to do a little bit more on offense? That would be a good thing. Utah is the other big one to watch tonight besides Memphis because they also potentially have a bunch of guys out. I don't know if Lauri Markkanen is going to try to play through his back spasms. When I have a spasm in my back, it usually knocks me out of activity for a couple of days, but maybe they caught it early. We'll find out in the next couple of hours. If he's out, I have to think that John Collins is going to get to do enough, even if Kyle Filipowski is the guy who gets the start. I'd still shy away there. And then you've got this whole Colin Sexton on the bench thing where, I mean, do the Jazz have enough offense if he's not in that starting unit? Is it because they don't want Sexton and Keontae George playing together because there's this I'm the point guard now kind of thing happening where Jordan Clarkson is much more willing to just be an off-ball guy? Either way, it's annoying, and I am a little worried about Colin Sexton because of it. Phoenix Suns, is Yusuf Nurkic a drop? I don't know, man. How many preseason shows did I do with Alex Rickling where we were like, we don't want anything to do with Nurk? So how am I supposed to tell you guys what to do with him now? It kind of doesn't feel fair. And it's not me trying to clown on him in this moment. It legitimately just doesn't seem like, why would you take advice from me on what to do with Nurkic if I didn't want him in the first place? Obviously, I'm going to say, don't have him. But if you have him, if you did it anyway, I don't really know what to do with him right now. You're probably holding and praying it gets better. I just don't know that it will. And should we be at all worried about Devin Booker? Like, I don't think it's going to be a bad year for Booker. He's number 42 in 9-cat right now, and the field goal percent is likely to come up a little bit. But is it just going to be lower scoring, lower assist? Is he going to be a 30-something ranked guy this year or like a late 20s instead of teens? And I think it's conceivable. We all sort of knew that there was going to be a downtick this year if Beal was healthier and with Tyus Jones coming into town. But it's been more significant than we thought so far. So should be worried about Booker? Maybe. If you can still move him and get a different second rounder back, I probably would do it. But I don't know that you can. And then we just talked about the Clippers a second ago, but they are playing again today. I just want to see a big Harden game. I want to see a James Harden game where he shoots 50% and only has 3 turnovers, because that number is going to be, I mean, that's like your 30-point, 11 assist, 6 rebound, 2 steal, 5 3-pointer kind of game. The one that really blows the roof off the building. We haven't seen it yet because his shot's not falling and his turnovers are oopsies level high. But otherwise, I don't think there's a whole lot to think about with the LA Clippers. And here are your incomplete injury replacements for the day. Norman Powell. And I don't want you guys to continue to misinterpret this thing. I know that having him on this list, people are like, oh, Dan, you're too low on Norman Powell. No, it's just that we don't know what he's going to be when Kawhi comes back. So I don't want you guys to be like, yeah, Norm, easy call, full season, we're locked in, no problem. Because it could kind of implode a little bit. Right now, it seems like there's enough out there where even after Kawhi comes back, he should still be okay, but we don't know exactly how okay that even means. And then you got the Grizzlies and you got the Jazz. And unfortunately, I can't really give you the answer to these questions right now because we don't know who's in and who's out for those basketball teams. And I'm not sure that there's an ad on the Jazz anyway because John Collins is already on rosters. So it's not like you can go out and pick him up. And the only thing we're really seeing in Utah is kind of like an oh no around Colin Sexton because I don't think you're picking up Filipowski. It's weird. You'd think with teams that have this many guys out, you'd have more options. Like, you know, with New Orleans, Jordan Hawkins in the mix, and Jose Alvarado suddenly is in the mix. Someone will do something for Memphis, and someone will do something for Utah. I just don't know that we can definitely say who it's going to be before the game happens. Other than if there's room for Scotty Pippen Jr., that would be an easy call on the Memphis side. And with Utah, like if John Collins gets bumped into the starting lineup, that would be a pretty easy call. But again, he's on rosters already, so it doesn't really help you. Okay, that was our big mush it all together episode, almost 50 minutes long. I'm going to rest my voice. Hope you guys enjoyed the mailbag episode we dropped earlier today. Myself and my good buddy Adam King. Happy Halloween, everyone. Happy Halloween. My child will be going to no one's surprise as Shohei Ohtani. but his shoulder will not be injured on Halloween night, we hope. And tomorrow's a little bit of a weird one. I don't know if you guys even care what we're going to be doing tomorrow, but just in case you do, my youngest child is off school for parent-teacher conferences, so everything's going to start just a tiny bit later than usual. We likely will have our first big mega weekend review podcast, but I got to try to figure out a way to squeeze in 2 things. So what's the other one I want to do tomorrow? Got some ideas lined out, but I don't know which one it's going to be yet. I haven't done a buy low specifically since the first, after the 2 games. Remember we did the overreaction show? So maybe it's time to dig in a little bit on some more buy lows. Everybody wants to know who the stashes are early in the year, so that's potentially on the docket. Best pickups so far. We got a few choices to go through. I don't know why I'm yelling them out loud, giving everybody these great ideas that I'm going to use. I'm Dan Vespris. I remain Dan Vespris for Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball and the Old Man Squad Sports Network. I'll see you guys on social at Dan Vespris. You know you can get me over there throughout the day. Discord is open and free. Check out that Google Sheet. Everything is in the show description. Check out some of those links. And please like, rate, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Other than some more shorts I might be dropping. Not my own. Videos. Short videos. My pants will stay on. Toodaloo!